Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are looking at a source on creativity that is, well, it's notoriously irreverent.
Oh, absolutely. Irreverent is the perfect word for it.
Right. I mean, the author actually included instructions on page 126 on how you can eat the book.
I literally eat the book.
Yes, literally. He suggests boiling it with a little salt and pepper, if you happen to be holding a special edition.
Which I think tells you right away that we are not dealing with some sterile academic manual on corporate synergy here.
Not at all. So we are pulling our insights today from Hegarty on creativity, there are no rules. And this is written by Sir John Hegarty.
Right. And for anyone outside the advertising bubble, Hegarty is the legendary founding creative partner of the agency BBH.
He's won the absolute top honors at Cannes, right?
Yeah, he's essentially a giant in the world of generating ideas that actually move culture, but his core philosophy is surprisingly democratic.
Democratic how?
Well, he strips away all the mystique. Hegarty defines creativity simply as the expression of self.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, his foundational argument is that every single human being is inherently creative. We all have it in us.
So why do so many people feel like they aren't creative?
He says the problem isn't a lack of magic, it's a lack of process. Like, we obsess over the output, the final painting, the perfect business proposal.
Like a viral marketing campaign.
Exactly. When the only part of the process you can actually control is your input.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we have to start where every creator starts, and where, frankly, most of us stall out.
The blank page.
Yes, the terrifying, stark, perfectly white blank page, or, that blinking cursor on a Tuesday morning. Why is simply starting so universally paralyzing?
Because it's the absolute definition of intimidation. I mean, you are tasked with making something out of nothing.
Which is terrifying.
Psychologically, yeah, it is. When you stare at a blank canvas, your brain literally registers a threat. You are terrified that whatever you produce is going to be a failure.
And no one wants to fail.
Right. Evolutionarily, our brains want to protect us from the social rejection that comes with failure. So we freeze.
So how does Hegarty say we get past that?
He points out that you have to actively reject the very possibility of failure at the starting line. You have to bypass the brain's threat detection system by, treating the process like playing.
Playing. Like a kid with a box of wooden blocks.
Yes.
When they dump them on the floor, they aren't worried about the architectural integrity of the castle. They're just stacking to see what happens.
Precisely. Hegarty mentions that prolific creators like Woody Allen, for example, they actually love the process of starting.
Really? They crave the blank page.
They do. And the secret is that they don't try to envision the entire novel or the full global campaign on day one. They start incredibly small.
Just a tiny step.
Yeah, you just sketch a single line, you write down one character trait, you formulate one sentence.
And that gets the ball rolling.
Exactly. By doing that, the process itself begins to explain your idea to you. You aren't staring at a void anymore. You're simply reacting to the stimulus you just put down.
But, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure, go for it.
If Hegarty says ideas are just thoughts formed by mental effort and we all have them, where is the quality control?
What do you mean?
Well, what if my grand idea after an hour of mental effort is just painting my bathroom ceiling yellow? Is that really a profound creative act, or am I just doing home maintenance?
Okay. This raises an important question about what makes an idea actually valuable to the world.
Right.
Hegarty makes a strict distinction between everyday choices, like deciding between sushi or pizza, or picking a paint color, and ideas of substance.
So what defines an idea of substance?
It's one that has the potential to shift a perspective, to change how people interact with the world, or, even change the course of history.
That's a high bar.
It is. But here is the critical pivot that most people miss. A profound idea absolutely does not have to be an original one.
Wait, you're going to have to explain that?
Okay.
Because in the corporate world, in art, in tech, originality is the holy grail. It's what everyone is desperately chasing.
I know, but Hegarty calls original one of the most inflammatory and meaningless words in the creative lexicon.
Wow. Meaningless.
Yeah. He argues forcefully that there is no such thing as a truly original idea. We are all copyists.
All of us.
Every single one of us. Everything we create is based on a massive catalog of things that have come before us.
I guess that makes sense.
Ideas borrow, they blend, they subvert, and they bounce off other ideas. We are all standing on each other's shoulders.
And the obsession with being completely original just leads to that paralysis we were just talking about.
Exactly.
So if we aren't supposed to be agonizing over pure originality, What exactly is the target?
The goal, according to Hegarty, is to be fresh.
Fresh, I like that. It immediately takes the pressure off.
Right.
I mean, I don't have to invent a brand new primary color. I just have to take an existing concept and present it in a way people haven't considered lately.
Think about it from a cognitive perspective. The human brain is an efficiency machine.
Meaning it takes shortcuts.
Exactly. It habituates to familiar things and filters them out to save energy. That's why you don't notice your commute to work anymore.
Oh yeah, you just go on autopilot.
Right. So a fresh idea acts as a pattern interrupt. Hegarty says a fresh idea does 3 specific things.
Which are?
First, it stops you. It breaks through that cognitive filtering and demands attention.
Okay, so it gets you to look.
Second, it makes you look at a familiar issue differently, re-engaging your interest. And third, it makes you understand the world in a more inspiring or thoughtful way.
Which ultimately moves you to action.
Exactly.
So the million-dollar question is, how do we consistently generate fresh ideas? Hegarty argues we have to tap into raw emotion, which honestly feels a bit counterintuitive when you look at how modern business operates.
Oh, he is adamant about this. We have to stop overthinking and start feeling.
But again, think about the reality for most of the people listening to this. If you're in a corporate environment, leadership wants logical processes. They want data sets. They want KPIs. They want scheduled brainstorming sessions in conference room B at 10 a.m. on a Thursday.
And Hegarty absolutely skewers that corporate mindset. He believes that mandating inspiration on a calendar is just totally useless.
It never works.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of behavioral psychology, humans are not rational creatures who occasionally have feelings.
We're the opposite.
Yes, we are emotional creatures who use logic to rationalize our emotional decisions post hoc.
Give me an example of how that plays out, because the book has some fascinating case studies on logic versus emotion.
Well, look at the warning labels on cigarette packs. Government regulators used pure logic. They printed "smoking kills" in massive black letters.
The logic is flawless. If you do this, you will die.
But it doesn't work. People still smoke.
Yeah.
Or look at the fashion industry. No one buys a pair of Louboutin high heels for their functional, logical ability to protect the human foot during a rainy commute.
Definitely not. They are notoriously uncomfortable.
Exactly. But they are bought entirely because of how they make the wearer feel. Status, confidence, rebellion. Emotion wins every single time.
So if logic fails, what specific emotion should we be tapping into? Because when people talk about creativity, the conversation usually leans toward joy or passion or love for the craft.
But Hegarty points to a much darker emotional fuel.
Right. He highlights anger.
Negative emotions, specifically anger at an injustice or frustration with the status quo, are incredible creative fuels.
That makes a lot of historical sense, actually. Think about Pablo Picasso's Guernica.
Yes, perfect example.
He didn't paint that masterpiece because he was having a lovely, relaxing afternoon in the Spanish countryside. He was furious about the fascist bombing of innocent civilians.
Or take Charles Dickens. He didn't write A Christmas Carol to spread lighthearted holiday cheer.
No, he was outraged by the systemic abuse of the poor.
Right, and the horrors of child labor in Victorian England. People forget the book famously starts with the grim, blunt line, "Marley was dead."
It's not a happy start.
Not at all. Hegarty even shares his own experience using anger to create a famous anti-smoking campaign.
Oh, this one is intense.
Yeah, he was furious about the effects of secondhand smoke on children. The logic-based government ads weren't working.
So what did they do?
His agency leaned into that anger and created a jarring poster featuring a toddler casually smoking a cigarette, and the headline just said, "How many cigarettes a day does your child smoke?"
Wow. That is incredibly confrontational.
It was shocking, but it worked. It bypassed logic and hit people right in the gut because it was born out of genuine, highly aroused emotion.
Anger demands action in a way that satisfaction never does.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Anger might start the fire, but you need a strategy to direct that fire.
You do.
I mean, if you just walk into a board meeting furious and screaming, you don't get a creative breakthrough. You get fired.
Yeah, that's a quick way out the door.
Right, so you need a vehicle for that disruption. And that brings us to Hegarty's most famous concept, the zag.
Ah, yes. The zag is legendary. It's the ultimate expression of pattern interruption.
I know the general concept, but how does the zag actually work in practice? Like, if the whole industry is going one way, how do you successfully pitch going the complete opposite direction without looking crazy?
The best way to understand the mechanics of it is through the famous Levi's pitch from 1982.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So, BBH was pitching a campaign to launch Levi's new black denim jeans. Now, the normal logical thing to do would be to hire a handsome model, put him in the black jeans, and shoot some cool photos.
Right. Show the
If
product.
that's what every other agency was doing, that's the zig.
So what did Hegarty's team do?
They walked into the pitch and showed a poster of a massive, densely packed flock of white sheep. And right in the middle, one single black sheep facing the exact opposite direction.
And what was the copy?
The text simply read, "When the world zigs, zag."
Oh, man. I can only imagine the executives' faces. I'd imagine they hated it.
They were completely horrified. They literally asked, "Where are the jeans? You are trying to sell our jeans without showing them."
That takes some nerve.
But Hegarty understood the psychology of the consumer better than the client did. He explained that everyone on Earth already knows what a pair of jeans looks like.
Showing the product is a waste of mental space.
Exactly. The campaign needed to communicate what kind of person chooses to wear black jeans instead of blue. It's someone who isn't part of the flock, someone who inherently wants to stand out.
And they eventually trusted him, ran it, and it became a massive culture-shifting success.
It was so successful that the black sheep actually became BBH's iconic logo and their guiding corporate philosophy.
It just proves that to be fresh, to truly capture attention, you have to look in the opposite direction of the crowd.
Absolutely.
But let's make this actionable for the listener. To know when to zag, you have to be highly attuned to what the world is zigging towards.
Right, you can't rebel against a trend if you don't know it exists.
You're just flailing in the dark. So how does Hegarty suggest we tune our antennas?
He argues that great creators are what he calls transmitters. Creativity is not an occupation you clock in and out of at 5 p.m.
It's a preoccupation.
Yes. Great creators are constantly absorbing random messages, observing the world around them, processing that data, and then reinterpreting it for an audience.
You absolutely have to be a sponge before you can be a transmitter.
Which leads to his absolute biggest pet peeve.
And I have to confess, I am totally guilty of this, especially on my commute. He despises it when creatives walk around in public with their headphones on.
It drives him crazy. From a sensory perspective, you are intentionally cutting off one of your primary avenues for data collection.
You're voluntarily reducing the amount of serendipitous inspiration that can reach you.
And serendipity is really just your brain connecting seemingly unrelated data points, right? If you block the data, you block the connections.
Exactly. The story he tells about the fashion designer Paul Smith illustrates the mechanics of this perfectly.
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah, Paul Smith was stuck at an airport in Milan, and his flight was severely delayed. Now, the modern instinct, the instinct most of us have, is to pop in our noise-canceling earbuds, stare at our phones, and completely unplug our brains until they call our boarding zone.
But instead of doing that, he just went for a walk around the terminal.
Right, with his eyes and ears open.
Ugh.
And while he's walking, he spots this tiny, random, lucky charm on the ground. It must have fallen off someone's bracelet.
So what does he do?
He picks it up, examines the shape, gets a flash of inspiration, and decides to use that specific, strange shape as a button design.
That single button design ended up on 30,000 shirts.
30,000.
Yeah. That level of scale, born from a tiny moment of observation, simply does not happen if he is actively blocking out his environment with a curated playlist.
Hegarty has a very blunt rule about the media we consume, too. He says, read shit and you'll think shit.
Huh. Yeah, he doesn't mince words.
If you want to create great things, you have to mix with the best. But he also insists we have to mix with the unexpected. He specifically tells creatives they need to read The Economist.
Not an art magazine, not a design blog, but a dense financial magazine.
What's fascinating here is the dual purpose of that advice. First, it forces you out of your echo chamber.
Right. If you only look at what other graphic designers are doing, you will unconsciously start designing just like them.
That's how you get generic trends.
But second, and this is crucial for anyone trying to actually make a living with their ideas, you have to understand the people you are selling those ideas to.
Oh, absolutely.
If you can speak the language of business, market share, and finance, you can persuade the board of directors to actually fund your wild, creative zag. You bridge the gap between art and commerce.
Speaking of unexpected inputs, I was blown away by his theory on bad weather. It sounds like a joke at first, but the psychology behind it is rock solid.
The theory that terrible weather is actually a massive competitive advantage for creativity.
Yes. He compares sunny Hollywood to rainy London. He says Hollywood constantly struggles to write original, challenging scripts because when it's 75 degrees and sunny every single day, you want to be sitting by the pool at the Sunset Marquis with a cocktail.
You do not want to be agonizing over complex character arcs in a dark room.
Exactly. But in London, the weather is famously miserable. It physically traps you inside.
He jokes that every summer, thousands of barbecues are bought in the UK, and they just rust away in landfills because it rains too much to ever use them.
It's so true. But if we look at the cognitive science behind that, it makes perfect sense. Creativity flourishes in constraint and adversity.
When your environment is too comfortable, your brain gets lazy. There's no urgency.
But the constraint of the rain forces you to stay at your desk. It forces your brain's default mode network to wander, to chew on the problem, because there is no immediate sunny distraction to escape into.
And Hegarty relates this concept of adversity to how we view our relationship with history as well. He insists that a creative person must respect the past, but never, ever revere it.
Because reverence is paralyzing. When you put a past master on a pedestal, it makes you think, well, they already did it perfectly. Who am I to try and change it?
Reverence leads directly to imitation. You end up building a shrine.
Right.
Adversity, on the other hand, whether it's fighting through bad weather or intentionally challenging the established norms of your industry that forces innovation, you have to use the past as a stepping stone, not a destination.
So what does this all mean when the rubber meets the road? We've gathered all these diverse inputs, we've suffered through the bad weather, we've found our anger, and we've got a fresh idea.
Okay.
How do we actually finish it without ruining it?
Hmm.
Because the execution phase is where a lot of great ideas die a slow death.
Hegarty has a brilliant phrase for this precarious stage. He says, "Good is the enemy of great."
That feels paradoxical on the surface. Isn't good a necessary stepping stone on the way to great?
You would naturally assume it's the linear progression, right? Like
Yeah.
your work goes from ordinary to okay to good and finally to great.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But Hegarty explains that the creative process is actually a chaotic roller coaster. You lurch from absurd to interesting to good, and then sometimes right back to absurd.
That sounds exhausting.
It is, and the real neurological danger is that when you finally hit good, your brain experiences an immense sense of relief. You achieve cognitive closure.
Like, it makes sense, the budget works, the client will probably sign off on it.
You get that hit of dopamine because you solved the puzzle, and your brain just wants to stop and be safe.
Exactly. But your gut knows it isn't truly great yet.
Hegarty says whenever he shows a new campaign idea to someone, and their reaction is, oh, that's really good, he knows immediately he has to tear it up and keep going.
You have to actively fight your own biological urge for comfort and push past the safety of a good idea to reach a great one.
And fighting that urge requires incredible persistence. There's a story from his time in art school that is such a powerful metaphor for this.
The drawing class story.
Yeah, he was in a life drawing class, and the teacher was walking around observing. The teacher stopped a student who was getting frustrated with a messy sketch and was trying to flip the page to start over.
And what did the teacher do?
The teacher stopped the entire class and said, when a drawing is going wrong, you do not turn the page, you stay on that exact piece of paper, you keep working, and you push through the ugly phase until you make it right.
Wow.
Only then have you earned the right to turn the page.
That refusal to bail out when things get messy connects perfectly to the story he tells about the legendary sculptor Henry Moore.
Oh, the 80th birthday interview.
Yeah. On Moore's 80th birthday, a journalist was flattering him, calling him a rare generational genius. But Moore stopped him.
What did he say?
He pointed out that when he graduated from the Royal College of Art, there were 30 other sculptors in his class who were just as technically talented as him.
Okay.
40 years later, there were 10 still working. 60 years later, there were 3.
Just 3.
Yeah. Moore's point wasn't that he possessed some mystical gift. It was simply that he never stopped working. He persisted. He refused to turn the page prematurely.
But surely, doing all of this alone, fighting the blank page, pushing past good, surviving the roller coaster, is torture.
It is.
And in today's modern corporate culture, the solution to that is teamwork. Everything is about collaboration, cross-functional synergy, and group brainstorming. But Hegarty is famously hostile to that model, isn't he?
He really is. He argues that in practice, large-scale collaboration almost always morphs into consensus. And consensus, by its very nature, is a mathematical regression to the mean.
It breeds average work.
Exactly. If you have a sharp, dangerous, fresh idea and you have to make it acceptable to 10 different people sitting on beanbags in a conference room, they're going to systematically sand off all the edges that made the idea interesting in the first place, just to avoid offending anyone in the room.
He actually compares modern corporate collaboration to an orgy.
Huh? Yes. He says too many people makes for bad sex, which is certainly a vivid way to get the point across.
It's highly provocative, but it's completely true to his philosophy. He believes that truly great work requires a single, uncompromising vision.
Like Frank Gehry.
Right, he uses the architect Frank Gehry as a prime example.
Right.
When Gehry designed the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, he didn't crowdsource the blueprints.
No, he had a singular, crystal clear vision for that bizarre, beautiful, undulating metal structure.
Now, did he have to collaborate with structural engineers to physically build it without it collapsing? Of course.
Sure.
But the core creative idea belonged to one mind.
Now, I do want to clarify for the listeners that he doesn't advocate for total isolation. He admits that pairs can work exceptionally well.
Like John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
Exactly. Or the classic advertising structure of pairing one art director with one copywriter.
The critical distinction there is the friction. Successful pairs usually come from opposing disciplines.
Right. An art director thinks in visual space, whereas a writer thinks in linear narrative.
They aren't just echoing each other's biases. That friction, rubbing those two very different skill sets together, creates the sparks necessary to ignite a truly great idea.
If you collaborate in a large group of like-minded people, you'll just nod in harmony. Which is fine if you're singing in a choir, but it's terrible for generating disruptive, fresh ideas.
Exactly.
So, we've covered the evolutionary fear of the blank page, using anger as a high-arousal fuel, embracing the zag to interrupt patterns, unplugging our ears to catch serendipity, and pushing past the dopamine hit of good to get to great with a singular vision.
That's a lot of ground.
It is.
Yeah.
When we pull all the way back, what is the ultimate end game here? What is the creator actually trying to achieve at the end of all this effort?
According to Hegarty, after you strip away all the mediums and all the technology, it boils down to three things: simplicity, truth, and storytelling.
Just those three.
Yeah. The creator is ultimately only trying to conquer one very specific piece of real estate, and that's the space between the audience's ears. And to penetrate that space, the message must be incredibly simple, and it must contain a core, undeniable truth.
Because if you don't actually believe what you're saying, your audience's radar will pick up on the inauthenticity instantly.
Precisely. And what people often misunderstand is that it takes massive, painful effort to distill a complex truth into a simple story.
It's so hard to keep it simple.
He quotes the French philosopher Blaise Pascal, who famously ended a long letter to a friend by writing, "My apologies for this letter being so long. Had I more time, it would have been shorter."
That is brilliant. It takes significantly more work to be concise.
It really does. But when you finally manage to wrap a simple, honest truth in a compelling story, that is the most powerful form of communication ever invented by humans.
It really is.
It is the only vehicle that can successfully deliver an idea directly into someone else's memory.
Which brings us right back to that terrifying blank page we talked about at the very beginning.
The dreaded blank page.
Yeah. But it turns out the page isn't a trap designed to expose your failures. It's just waiting for you to stop overthinking, start playing, and put down one simple, honest truth.
Couldn't have said it better.
Well, I want to thank you for taking this deep dive into our source material today. We've covered a massive amount of ground, from smoking toddlers and black sheep to the hidden benefits of rusting British barbecues.
It's been a fun ride.
It really has. But I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over as you go about your week. Something that isn't explicitly spelled out in the text, but feels incredibly urgent for how we work today.
Oh, I like this.
If Sir John Hegarty is right, if terrible weather, righteous anger, the friction of opposing ideas, and the pure, unmedicated struggle of staring down a blank page are the true crucibles where greatness is forged, what are we doing to ourselves right now? Are our modern obsessions with ergonomic office comfort, perfectly curated Spotify playlists isolating us in our noise-canceling headphones, and AI tools that instantly brainstorm average ideas for us actually sanitizing our minds?
That's a scary thought.
Are we starving our own potential for greatness simply by trying to make the process painless? So take the headphones off today. Embrace a little bit of the struggle and see what you notice.